Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to my Gig-Olos and Gigalettes. It's me, Gio. Y'all know who the fuck it is. Alrighty, I am driving to a task on a Monday here. Just going there from a previous task. A little bit of heavy traffic because we got an unexpected snowstorm when the rest of the month has been hoodie weather. So there you go. So I've compiled a list of like a comprehensive list of tips and tricks for newer taskers to get the ball rolling for your if you want Taskrabbit to be one of your side hustles, or if you want to pursue it further, like me, like right now, ever since August, pretty much my main source of income has been Taskrabbit. August of 2020. It's my favorite app. It's the best app. It's definitely it's, in my opinion, Taskrabbit is the blueprint for how all gigs should work. You set your own rates, you set your availability, clients book you based on your reviews and your experience and your individual rates. They can favorite you, they can book you again. Like for example, the job I'm going to right now is for a returning client. This is the second job I'm doing for her. And yeah, it's the best. And their support is fantastic compared to other apps, so it's got everything going for it, minus a couple issues here and there, like the metric system, stuff like that, but I could talk about that another time. But this is just a video for newer taskers, and keep in mind, guys, I have to say this and repeat this because I haven't. A lot of you are still kind of like on the, when you watch YouTube videos, you apply what I'm saying to what previous YouTubers have said, where they all do like a one-size-fits-all approach to whatever gig you're talking about. Like someone who drove for Uber in California or does food deliveries in California, guess what? What they're telling you may not apply in Atlanta, Georgia. Someone who drives in New York or does the food deliveries in New York may not apply to Tallahassee, Florida. I do not give a one-size-fits-all approach. I'm just giving information based off my personal experience, and I fully understand every market is different. So the rates that I'm talking about here apply to the Chicago market. And I'm not going to talk about categories that I've never done or have no experience in. That's not how I do things. I do not pretend to be an expert at things that I've never done. So there you go. Got that out of the way. So this is advice for new taskers, okay? The first piece of advice is you gotta set your rates low when you first start. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you have to look at it from the client's perspective, okay? Let's imagine you want to get into the help moving category, right? And you check the client app, which is another piece of advice. You want to get into that category, and you're like, well, all these other taskers are making 45, 50 bucks an hour. I'm going to charge 50 bucks an hour, right? I'm going to charge 50 bucks an hour because that seems these guys are all getting work. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Why is everyone driving so goddamn slow? Anyway, to the new tasker, that makes sense. You are charging the same that other taskers in the same category are charging. But here's what you're forgetting is the people that have their rates higher, most of the time, there might be a couple of, newer people that are charging that much. You have to look at this from the client's perspective, okay? If a client is looking at their app and they're looking for movers, and let's just say there's 10 movers, right? And 5 of the movers are charging $55 an hour. Or let's just say $60 an hour, yeah, because that means the taskers make it 51. If those taskers are charging $60 an hour, but they have 70, 80, 90, 100 jobs, right? And they have all these reviews and they got a pretty good rating, then the client would feel comfortable paying extra for a tasker charging that much compared to a brand new tasker that's charging the same amount. Because the client's going to be like, well, I could hire the more experienced tasker at $60 an hour. And if they look at your rates versus someone else, because there's a list, and they're like, well, I don't feel comfortable paying a brand new inexperienced tasker the same amount that I can get that rate for another tasker that has way more experience and way more reviews, right? Because Taskrabbit's a very review heavy app. If they see you racking up 1 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, they're gonna be like, I don't want you moving my grandmother's 150-year-old antique cabinet around, right? So this is why I tell everyone, when you first get started, you're gonna have to whore yourself out a tiny bit. I'm not saying, set your rates 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, but take a look at the client app, which is again it's another piece of advice here. 30, and I'm talking about major markets, Chicago, New York, larger metropolitan areas where there's, heavy demand for these types of gigs. So, first piece of advice, set your rates low, okay? If you're starting. Second piece of advice, keep an eye on the client app. When you start building experience, getting reviews, right? Try to find that happy medium. Okay, don't be the cheapest person on the app. Do not be the most expensive. If you're the cheapest, you're whoring yourself out. You're making way less than you should. If you're the most expensive, you're only going to get, you're going to be looking at your app and your buddies are going to be like, hey, dude, I did 13 jobs last week. How about you? Oh, I got nothing. I wonder why. Because you're charging too much. Okay? And in my opinion, I know this might be a dig at some of the other taskers in the categories. If you're charging 120, 130 bucks an hour, the amount of work the quality of your work better be worth 120, 130 bucks an hour, because you're essentially charging what the client could get 3 taskers for. So that's my opinion. The third piece of advice is develop a relationship. Keep in close contact with the other taskers, right? Like with me, I have 4 or 5 other taskers that I regularly keep in contact with. If I get a job and someone says like, hey, I need extra help, I immediately throw it out and be like, who wants it? Or if they don't ask me to bring someone else, and they ask me if I can recommend anyone else, I have their links saved in my phone. So I'll just load the list onto the chat thread and give them a choice of like which one they think is the best one. And then, yeah. Because usually, if you start throwing your buddies extra work, they're going to hook you up with an extra job here or there. Don't say no to extra business. It's just, it's better if you want to stay busy, if you want those consistent jobs, because that's where consistency is key on this app. Have guys that you're going to work with taskers, other taskers a lot. You're going to get to know them a lot, and it helps to have their contact information. If you run into an emergency where someone's like, okay, well, we got this treadmill we need to move, and 2 guys is enough. Can you get a 3rd guy over here? Be like, yeah. In that case, you want to have 2 or 3 other guys where you have their contact information, or girls. I know I sound a little sexist, but most of my categories are male heavy. There's not too many females that do moving jobs in Chicago. you're going to want a couple extra people just in case, right? So that's the third piece of advice is, keep in close contact with other taskers. Like I said, I think I have the contact information of 6 other taskers on me, but I regularly communicate with like 4 of them. Fourth piece of advice is do not, unless it's snow removals, do not overbook, okay? Because over the summer, it's going to be really busy. Let's say you get that first moving job at 8 a.m. and you're like, well, it should, and this is the thing, if you're a newer tasker, you don't really know what to expect, you're still getting into it. You may not be entirely sure how long these jobs are going to take. So, while one of the constant issues I've run into is a client thinking the job's going to take 3, I've had this happen where they say it's going to take 3 hours and it's done in 45 minutes. You sometimes got to trust the client. If they say it's going to be 2 hours, book it for 2 hours. Don't think every job is going to take 1 hour, because if you book every job for 1 hour and you line up 3 or 4 or 5 jobs in one day, next thing you know, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to be late for my second job, and there's going to be another team of taskers there. That's going to leave me being late to my third job, which means I'm going to be super late to my fourth job and incredibly late to my fifth job. So do not overbook, right? Sometimes you got to trust the clients on this one, because overbooking yourself might lead to you being late to your next job, which makes the other tasker late because you didn't get started on time, which means that other tasker might be late to their next job. And also really bad is the client, if the tasker is one of those guys, because I've done this before where it's like, I'm sitting in my hands for 30 minutes, but I'm not charging those 30 minutes, but I'm going to charge like 15 out of 30 because I was there on time. It's if the client's going to be fucking pissed if they had to pay the other tasker an hour for sitting on, for just with his hands in his pockets because you were late, and you're going to get a bad review. If you're that late and the other tasker is getting paid for you being tardy, that's a guaranteed 1 or 2 star right there. And ratings matter on Taskrabbit. I don't even think I put that in the notes, but that's a good one right there. Ratings matter. That's the 5th piece of advice. Ratings really, really, really matter on Taskrabbit. They are very important. They're a good reflection of you and your business. And if clients see you're getting, and whenever you open up the client app, if they see a 1 star, they can actually scroll down, click on it, and they will see if they left a note or a comment. They'll see why you got a 1 star. That's going to make them think twice about hiring you. If they see that you have some kind of issue with being on time, that's on you. Okay. The next piece of advice, I guess that's number 6. Have a friendly attitude. Don't come to the job with a shitty attitude. Leave that shit at home. Okay? You're on someone else's dime here. Be friendly, be positive. Don't be a fucking grouch, don't be moody. If you're having a bad day, just don't work. Right? Because like I said, this is a reflection of you. I've done it because this one other tasker fucking threw me a job that I didn't want, and spent the entire time fucking cussing him out. Still got a 5 star because I'm so charming. So that happened. But yeah, keep a friendly attitude. The next piece of advice here is have supplies. If you're doing moving jobs, get some dollies. All right, keep some rolling dolls with you, some moving straps. Gloves, whatever the case is, make sure you have supplies for the jobs you're going to do. If you're doing snow removals, you better have a shovel, better have some ice scraping tools. Whatever the case is, whatever the category you're doing, have supplies. If you're doing furniture assembly, if someone hires you to put together a dresser, and you show up to that job and you have nothing, and you got your hands in your pockets, and they're like, oh, this job calls for a power drill or some kind of drill. Where's your drill? Oh, I don't have one. Okay. I know many of you have never, if you've never put together a treadmill, for example. I probably built 20 of those over my career as a tasker. It's a pain in the fucking neck putting them together with the two pieces of equipment that come in the parts. Yeah, that's horrible. Next piece of advice: keep your supplies with you. Okay, typically, like, I have my appliance dolly, which is probably the best investment I've ever made. That thing was essentially paid off after the first week I bought it, but it's no good. You know, like, I don't always keep it with me, but I always tell the clients, you know, give me a bit of heads up and I can go grab it. But my rolling dolly, my tool bag, you know, everything else stays with me all the time. So your equipment does you no good if it's at home, okay? So the next piece of advice is you gotta know when to improvise. All right, this is a big part of the job. There are no manuals for learning how to move a treadmill. You know, there are no manuals for learning how to move certain pieces of equipment. You got to figure it out on your own. You know, like, you got to be creative. You got to think outside the box here and there. And if you don't, you know, you might get stuck. And a lot of clients aren't going to be okay with you charging them the hour when you didn't do the job. And the last piece of advice I'm going to give you guys is, if you're getting into it, you know, after you've gained some reviews and you got your rates low, raise your rates until you stop getting booked. That's how I did it last summer. That's what worked out for me. In August of last year, I was at $35 an hour. And then as I was getting booked, I was just kept raising the rates until I hit like the point I want to be at. And that's where I stayed, right? I changed my rates based on demand. You know, so if you start at 35, keep getting booked, next week, try 40. If you keep getting booked, next week, try 45, right? Until you hit that happy point. Don't disturb my video.
Why do you make a video when you know you're going to sue me? Well, you missed me.
I was hoping I'd be done before I got here.
You missed me? Oh, Gio. I think I'm going to bring the shovel.
Why?
Just be nice.
Yeah, but you're not nice. So yeah, raise your rates. Like, as you're getting booked, bump your rates. And then when you notice, like, if you set them too high and you stop getting booked, bring it back down, right? Find that happy medium, right? So yeah, that's all I got for this one. I want to thank y'all for watching. Everyone, please stay safe, stay driven, stay healthy, stay classy. I'll talk to you next time.